Hi, I'm Janet Tran. I'm a teaching artist here at the Honolulu Museum of Art. And today we're going to do a fun sculpture based activity, specifically mobiles. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically a hanging sculpture that can move whether it's by mechanical means like gears or machinery or things like that, or by the forces of nature, usually wind. And a good example is actually one that's right behind me, right here, is a mobile. It's not moving because it's against the wall, but normally it's hanging out a little bit and it gets to interact with space. So what's really fun is that although it's a sculpture piece that you normally think might be stagnant or it doesn't move, this one actually has the ability to kind of just do what it will. If you want to leave it out in the open or if you want to kind of blow on it gently, you can see how it changes through time and also plays with light and space and shadows and all those fun things. Now, to get started, we're going to need a bunch of different little things to help us get started. And the materials we're going to need are pretty basic, but hopefully things you have around your house. So things we're going to use for this project are some colorful paper. What I have in front of me is an assortment of cardstock in different colors. You can use whatever you have. I like this because I really like the colors and they're very bright and vibrant. So I'm going to use this. I'm also going to use some cardboard. I have two sheets of cardboard. This one's kind of thin, so it's easy to cut. But if you have thicker ones, that's totally fine too. You just might have to adjust some of your tools. So that's my two paper things. A pencil to help me sketch a design later and an eraser in case I make mistakes. A hole puncher, which I'm going to use to help make holes. If you don't have this, use any tool that is sharp that you can poke a hole into your paper or your cardboard. Just make sure that you're safe with it and you don't accidentally poke yourself. Or if you need help, ask an adult to help you out if it's a tool that you're not comfortable using or you're not sure about. Some other things we're going to need is a pair of scissors. And again, if this scissors doesn't work for the materials you have, make sure you use a tool that does. And if you need adult supervision, make sure you ask for help. It's always okay to ask for help. We're also going to use some string, and this is going to help us tie our mobile pieces together. I have glue. You can either use liquid glue or glue stick, depends on what you end up doing, but it's nice to have both if you have it. And the last thing is some drawing tools. I'm going to be using an assortment of Sharpies in different colors because, again, I really like colorful things. But you can use anything you have at home like crayons, markers, colored pencil, whatever drawing tools you have available to you that you're comfortable using. So that's all that we need. And to get started, I'm going to slowly clean up my area a little bit because all I need right now is just my cardboard. So I'm going to push some things off to the side and make a nice clean area so I can get started. So the first thing we're going to do with our cardboard is we're going to use this really sturdy cardboard to help make the base structure or the thing that is going to help us hang everything off. We're going to use it to make a structure that hangs everything that we're going to draw later. So that's basically like the top things you see at the mobile. So I'm going to make the main one, which is the top part where we're going to actually hang everything off of. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil. Oops, what a yarn ball. I'm going to take my pencil and my cardboard, and I'm just going to use the straight edge of my other piece of cardboard to make a couple of strips, maybe about an inch and a half to 2 inches. I wanted to make sure it's nice and thick so I have enough space to work with, and that way I can punch holes into it without it breaking apart. So I'm just going to lightly eyeball this. I'm going to draw one strip. So I have one rectangle, and maybe I'll make another one. I want to hang smaller things off of it. So two lines. I'm going to put my pencil down, grab my scissors. Ooh, things are rolling all over the place today. I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to cut on the lines I made like that. And again, if your material is thicker, maybe scissors might not work. You might want to use something else. Just make sure that you're safe using whatever cutting tool you use to cut your thick piece of board. And later on, I'm actually going to tell you some different alternatives or different things you can use. You don't have to use the same materials. It can always be something else. But for now, we're just going to cut this out. I have my big piece. And for this tiny or this other piece, I'm going to cut into two tinier pieces because I might want smaller things hanging off. So I'm going to cut this in half. And I have two pieces. I'm going to take this off to the side. And right now I have the top of my mobile. So this is going to be the part where things are hanging off of. And then two smaller ones that I'm going to have other things hanging off of, like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to take my hole puncher to actually make holes so I can actually hang this. So what I'm going to do is with my hole puncher, I'm going to put a hole on this part of the board towards the top in the center, just so it's all balanced and it'll hang nicely. And I'll put one hole there. And I'm going to put a hole maybe on the bottom over here so I can actually hang things off of it. and maybe another one here and here. For now, I'm just making it nice and equal because it's easier to manage and take care of. And I'm going to do the same thing to my smaller pieces, one at the top to connect it to this main piece, and two smaller ones to hang fun little elements on later. So two. So we got that, we got this. Poke a hole in here, another one there, and one more here. So this is where I'm going to put our little loop of string later to help us hang the actual sculpture. And then these are holes where I can connect all these different pieces together. So I have holes and I have these. Now what I need right now is I need some fun things to actually hang off with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my colored paper. I'm going to move this off to the side. I'm going to bring in my colored paper and I'm going to bring back my pencil and maybe sketch some fun things I can put. So right now I'm not too sure what I want to make. Maybe I'll just draw a circle to start off. And since I'm working with pencil, I can kind of just play with my shape. Maybe I'll make one circle. Maybe I'll make some squiggly here. Maybe I'll make another shape here. That's smaller. I might try to put that on top of my purple one. And I'll do a freehand shape later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my shape out. And if you want to just draw with your drawing tools, you can do that too. I want to do this just because I want to see how the shapes look by themselves without anything yet. So I have my circle, looking kind of like an oval. That's totally fine. I have my circle. I'm going to roughly cut out my blob, blue blob. Let's see. And while you're making these hanging elements, you can make as many as you want, and then that way you have choices in what you want to actually put on your sculpture when you start stringing everything together. So there's my blue piece. Here's my larger purple blob that I'm going to cut out. And I think since I said I want to put them on top of each other, I'll probably use my glue stick. But again, it depends on what you're gluing together. Sometimes you might need liquid glue to help you hold things a little more securely. And you know what? I kind of like my colors to come in three. So maybe I'll choose, let's see, what colors do I have? I will use, maybe this orange color. I'm going to use this orange and cut a really huge one. So it's three shapes stacked on top of each other. And again, the glue is totally optional if you want to glue your pieces together. I like doing this because it makes my paper a little stronger. And I kind of like the combination of the different colors too. It makes certain colors pop. You can see certain shapes a lot clearer. It's like I'm making a weird spill on my paper right now. Okay, let's glue the blue one. Ooh, trying to run away. And I'll put it right there. So I got this funky looking shape. I have my white circle. I'm going to take my drawing tools and add some details. I kind of want to make this look like an eyeball. So let's see, what colors do I have? I will use orange because I have orange here. So maybe I'll make it match. Nice big old orange eyeball. And while you're drawing, you can think about, since we're going to be able to see this not only on one side, but on the back side or other sides as it moves around, if you want to design maybe the back side as well, like this orange shape could become something else. So that way when it turns, you can see color on one side and maybe a design on the other, like texture or some cool pattern that you come up with, or maybe there's a surprise message. That would be really cool. Something to surprise people when they actually see your piece out in the world hanging. And then I think for this one, I'm just going to put some black on the outside because what else can I put? And maybe I'll put some dots on the purple. So Actually, I'm going to glue my eyeball to a red circle so it has even more contrast. And then hopefully once you come up with all your different hanging elements, it can be any theme you want, we're going to move on to the next step, which is we're going to arrange it on our table to see kind of how we might want to hang it. So what I'm going to do is, again, push things I don't need off to the side. We're going to bring back our cardboard structures. And I'm actually going to bring in some other fun pieces that I made earlier today. So this one's very geometric and, again, very colorful with some other drawn details. I also have 2 more eyeballs, so now I have 3 eyeballs. And some other fun shapes using a different color, different lines, different texture, different all kinds of everything. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to see how I want to lay out my mobile. And to do that, I'm going to take my top part. I know this is going to be the part where I hang, so this is going to be the very top. And I have these 3 holes where I can hang something off of. So I could do maybe 1 eyeball in the center. And imagine if there's something here connecting it, which we'll get to pretty soon. And then maybe I have another piece of board here to hang 2 more things off of. So this one connects to this hole. And maybe I will let's put another eyeball, why not? And I'll put maybe one of these fun shapes that have little creatures hanging out. And right now I can see that one side's really heavy, so I'm going to try and balance that out by putting maybe another board here. And again, this is connecting to these 2. And I'm going to put, maybe I'll put one of my funky shapes, this bee-looking one. Or maybe I'll put this one here. And since I have another eyeball, let's just do another eyeball. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use these 3 or these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, and I'm going to tie them all together using string. So now I'm going to take my string and I'm going to bring back my pair of scissors, and I'm just going to cut off different lengths of string to tie everything together. So that way, when everything is put together, I can actually hold it up as one sculpture. And right now, this is a little too small. I'm going to cut a longer piece. So that when I hold it up, we can see how it hangs. And also, if it hangs in a way that is balanced or that actually holds everything nicely so it doesn't droop over to one side. If it does droop over to one side, it's no big deal. Part of the fun of making mobiles is making sure that you have things balance out each other. And it's kind of fun to see how you might have to change up the pieces to make it work. So I'm going to tie this piece of red string to the very top. I'm going to take my time to put it through this hole. And then there's the top. So right now nothing's hanging off of it, so obviously it's going to hang like this. I'm going to cut a lot of different pieces of string. So I'm going to fold this one in half so I have 2 equal pieces. So I can use that for each side so I know they're the same length. And I'm only tying this with a double knot. It doesn't have to be anything fancy unless you want to make it really fancy. So it's totally up to you. And if you don't want to use string, you can also use things like wire or basically anything that is flexible. So string, wire, maybe ribbon would be fun. Something that can help connect things all together. Ooh, even paper clips might be a fun one to use too, or rubber bands if you have that. You can see how that might work, especially rubber bands since they're nice and stretchy. So I'm going to tie this together. And if you're someone who doesn't really want to draw something, that's totally fine too. You could also just use things that are around the house that you want to string together into a mobile, maybe old toys, maybe even past art projects that you're not too sure what you want to do with anymore, but maybe you can turn them into a new piece of artwork and recycle it that way. You can do a bunch of different things. There's always more than one way to do art. So right now I'm tying this. Tying that together. There we go. And now that we can see the red string connecting pieces together, you might be able to see how it hangs. So right now we have our 2 pieces of string hanging off of this one big piece. And once I have this, I can start tying on all my fun images. So let's tie my eyeball. Maybe I'll keep that kind of high up. So I'm going to make my string a little bit shorter. There we go. Put that there. Oop. Let's see. There. and if you use wire, you might not even need to use the cardboard. You can just use the wire for to connect things and also to be the things that hang off of. So let's put that there. Taking my time, make sure everything is nice and tied. And if you want, you can totally decorate your cardboard too. I'm not doing that because I really like that it kind of blends into everything else and you really focus on the things that I drew. So again, you can decorate whatever parts you want to put into your mobile. Or you can just paint it a different color. That totally works too. All right, so we got 4 more things to tie. So I'm going to cut this in half once and then in half again. So I have 4 equal pieces. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm tying this like that. Tying it one more time, the double knot. Get that through there. And since some of mine have blank backs, I can also add something else if I feel like it while I'm tying this. If I think of something interesting I can put on the back side, you can totally do that. You can always go back and add other things and other details that you think might be fun or cool for someone to uncover while they look at your art piece. Now, I think a question like I kind of mentioned earlier is if you use other things, what are some good options? I think it's good to think about what kind of theme you want to do with your mobile. So, for example, if you really wanted to make something that came from nature, for example, maybe instead of using cardboard, you use a branch as the thing that you hang everything off of, and you go foraging for branches or seed pods or things that are in nature that won't break down too easily but have a unique shape. I think that would be really cool to use. You could also use things that are around the house. So maybe you have, like I said, old toys. Maybe you have things like photos would be really fun. If you have family photos that you would like to display in a fun way, you can totally use those as well. Just make sure they're copies and not the originals, because sometimes you want to make sure we don't use things that are not going to last forever or we don't have extras of. But things like that would be really fun, especially if you make it like a gift for someone. I think that would be really nice to have in a room. But yeah, there's like so many different things. The main thing is how are you going to connect them all together to make it hang, right? And maybe some of these tools might not work. If it doesn't work, you can always ask yourself, what can I use that would actually make them hold together? Or if you're not too sure, ask maybe another friend or your family member, or maybe even ask another artist you know to see how they can help you out. They might have some really good suggestions that you might never have thought of. And that'd be really fun to learn something new too. Okay, I'm almost done tying my pieces. I just want to be extra careful because I don't want anything to accidentally fall off once I take this off the table. Now, one more thing. But of course, you can just use these materials. It's an easy way to make a mobile. And I'll show you some other ways that I use the same materials to make slightly different versions that use slightly different techniques, but the materials are pretty much the same thing. Whew. Tying so many things. I feel like I'm trying to wrap Christmas presents right now. Okay, one more. Almost there. And of course, you don't have to make it this big, or you can make it bigger if you want to. It's totally up to you. Just make sure your workspace is large enough to have so many different things going on. Because I can see there's a lot of string, there's a lot of pieces, and things can easily get tangled. Okay, so everything is tied. Let me double check. Looks like everything's tied. And now what I can do is I'm going to grab it by the very top, and I'm going to slowly lift it up and see how it hangs. Ooh, and honestly, it's hanging pretty well. It's not too heavy on one side. Things are starting to move. If I give it a nice big breath, it starts spinning. Maybe we'll do one more breath. Come on, spin. It starts moving around. You can see that we see certain shapes, certain colors, and then when it turns, you can see images and other things that are really fun about mobiles. And if it's a windy day, you might see it go crazy, but we're inside, so no craziness right now. But if you put it outside, it might be fun to watch, right? Of course, like I said, this is only one way of making it. If you use the same materials, you can also do some other techniques. So here's one that I made using pretty much the same things, but taking it in a different way. Obviously, this one has a theme of some clouds and rainbows and some other stuff, but it's still using the same materials and but just in slightly different ways to make it a little more 3D, also a little more heavy. But of course, you can do many different things and it doesn't have to just be what I showed you today. So long as you have something that is the main structure, things that you have hanging elements to hang off of it, things to help connect it, and basically putting it all together, you can make your own mobile. So that's how we make our mobile. And of course, if you make something today, if you make your own mobile, if you want to share it, tag us at Honolulu Museum. We would love to see what you make, especially if you send us a video. I want to see how yours interacts with the space as well. That'd be super cool to see, especially if you make something really interesting. And before we go, I want to make sure that you know that next month we are actually going to have in-person activities. So if you are free next Family Sunday, come join us, come make with us, and get hands-on with a bunch of activities that we have because we want to see you in person to visit our museum and hopefully see mobiles that we have in our museum galleries, as well as other art artifacts and images, paintings, sculptures, all kinds of fun things. We want to see you there and we hope that you get to enjoy the art too. That being said, I hope you had fun and you go out there and make art and share it with people. All right, see ya. Bye.